now we have a world-renowned anthropologist, and he is the most respected anthropological theoretician of the contemporary world in the context of globalization and related issues. And he is Professor Appadurai. Professor Arjun Appadurai is the person. He was born in India, and India feels proud of him. And he is the world-renowned anthropologist, and he is the world-renowned anthropological theoretician, and he brought wonderful insights and applications. And he is the most respected in not only in anthropology, in all social sciences and humanities. They take his insights and they use his insights and applications in their disciplines, and all students of the social sciences of the world, they're familiar with the name Professor Arjun Appadurai. He is now going to, if you want to, he has a long, big biodata, and if I read all those things, and time will not allow me. So I request Professor Arjun Appadurai sir to take this time and to deliver his important, valuable message. Sir, we are very much honored, and I'm really thank you for responding to my phone call. Thank you for responding to my WhatsApp chatting with you. And I'm nobody before you, sir. And from my MA days, I have been reading about you in the textbooks. And we are all very honored to have you as our keynote speaker for our first event, public event, National Applied Anthropology Congress, Anthropology for India. So you are the right person for this right context. Sir, we have been eagerly waiting for you to listen to your valuable speech. Now I request you, sir, to deliver your keynote speech. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much for being so thoughtful.
Please
can you hear
unmute your mic, sir.
It's unmuted. Unmuted. It is unmuted. Unmuted. Can you hear me?
Not able to hear you.
Unmuted.
Yeah, unmuted. Dr. Gade, we can hear you very loud and clear.
Go ahead, sir.
Joe, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I can hear you very well.
Well, I don't think the organizers can hear me, so we have the same problem as before. Let us see.
We are able to hear you, sir. We are able to hear you.
You can? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. I think there was some glitch as before. So let me begin. I'm going to try to reduce the length of my talk because the clock is slightly against us. But I would be remiss if I did not begin by thanking all the organizers, several of whom have spoken today and have made framing remarks about the collaborations that have created today's event. And I am very honored to be invited, even if virtually, to make some comments on this occasion. I appreciate very much the range of institutions that has joined to support this mission and to support this vision. And I'll make only two personal comments before I go into the substance of my remarks. One is that having heard the Vice Chancellor's remarks, I'm afraid mine are going to be somewhat dull and boring. They were wise and witty and penetrating, as befits someone who is running a major university and has a big perspective and a sense of humor. In my own life, actually, I have had a lot of interest in the question of the digital world. Where is the upside? Where is the downside? Who is the master? Who is the slave? So if I had a choice and I could rerun, I would change my topic and give a kind of accompaniment or do a jugalbandi, which with the VC's comments. But alas, I don't have preparation for that. So you will have to accept a much more tedious and boring talk coming from anthropology. But it is coming from anthropology, and as my colleagues have said, we are a very broad train station. Local trains are coming, long distance trains are coming, global trains are coming. Traffic is very busy in the anthropology station. Our challenge is that because we were formed as the discipline which is about the study of man originally, but now we call it humankind, the things that move, everything falls under our purview. But as a result, of course, people who read anthropology only know a small piece here and there, but the menu is very large. So it's a restaurant with a menu of thousands of items, but who can eat thousands of items? So we only see 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but we have a big menu. The other comment I'll quickly make is to say that I'm very happy to be at an event in Andhra Pradesh. I am, of course, originally my family is from neighboring Tamil Nadu, but I'm very happy to say that my father, who would have been about 125 today, grew up and was educated to a small extent, only to high school. He could not afford more than that, in the town of Ettiyapuram by the Raja of Ettiyapuram, who is a distinguished gentleman from the Telugu region who came to Tamil Nadu, along with many other royalty of that time. So I feel a certain debt to Andhra, even in my own family. And so I'm very honored to be here, though my Telugu is quite limited, except for culinary terms. Otherwise, I'm a Tamil speaker, Hindi speaker, Marathi, etc. But I want to say I'm very delighted to be in this particular institutional environment. And finally, to say, I thank our colleague from the American Consulate for mentioning my background in Bombay. Indeed, I was very fortunate to live 100 meters from what was called the USIS Library, the United States Information Service, as it was called. And I read tons of magazines, fiction, books, as well as information about universities, which allowed me then to go to the US as a 17-year-old in 1967. And so I spent a lot of time in the USA, but always teaching about India, so I always returned to India. And consequently, anyway, I'll carry on, hoping that you can hear me. So I want to speak today briefly about a central problem in anthropology. And I want to speak about the problem. Unfortunately, I don't have solutions because the problem is a very hard one. And the problem is the problem of caste, a word everybody in this room knows. And it is not a word only for the contemporary world. It has been a central word in India and in Indian studies for a long time. In Indian society, depending on how you read the texts and read the archaeological evidence and so on, it is 1500 years old minimum. And it is alive and well today. And I have to say, the fact that it is alive and well today is not something any of us should be happy about or proud of. Caste still makes up the fabric of daily life, of power, of authority, of privilege, of every type. And any of you, all of you, who read the papers have only to look at the headlines to see who was killed in the name of caste, who was beheaded, who was raped, who was abused. Whether it's in UP or Andhra or Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu, doesn't matter. It's the story of the day. We are used to it. But there is a big question before we ask the question, how can we find some solution? That is, how can we get beyond caste? How shall we say, how can we progress? And the problem is quite deep because it is not that people have not tried. A lot of people have criticized caste. A lot of people have asked questions about caste. A lot of people have condemned caste. And as you know, the modern condemnations of caste have a very old history. And the first history, the earliest history of an effort to say caste is not a good thing comes from Buddhism. Most of you know this. And the fact that the great Ambedkar turned to Buddhism as part of his solution for India is not an accident. Buddhism was a major place where people tried to say, look, this is not the right way to organize life, where there are some few top castes and the rest of us are laboring, and the others are even below that, people we now call Dalit. The Buddhists, as you know, made a very good effort in this regard, but they failed in India. Buddhism was removed in India by the 10th century. I like to say that Buddhism, I use a saying, is India's most successful export. It went to China, Korea, there went to Thailand, Sri Lanka. It has bloomed everywhere, now including the US. But if you say, what is the story of Buddhism in India, except for Ambedkar and his followers, and now some people coming for pilgrimage to Bodh Gaya, Buddhism and Jainism are minority things, they're basically gone. So there is a question there, and no historians up to today have given a decisive answer. Why did Buddhism die in India in the first millennium of our history? But it is a relevant question, not because I'm an expert on ancient India or archaeology or Buddhism, but because I want to tell you that people have been for a long time trying to solve the problem of caste and get out of it. And it has proved to be very, very difficult. And one of the arguments that has been given about why this way of thinking and living and organizing society is so persistent, it is so resilient. You know, these days we often use the word resilience to refer to good things, resilient cities, resilient design, and so on. But caste is very resilient. Who made it so resilient? Why is it so resilient? When you could say that 75% of the population that lives in caste does not benefit from it. 50% at least are daily abused by it. Plus the constitution says it is illegal. Plus Western modern thought says it's illegitimate. But does the system care? It is thriving, it is resilient, it is doing brilliantly around us. So one of the great thinkers of the social sciences, who happens to be German, Max Weber, wrote a book called The Religion of India, where he tried to grapple with this. And his answer, which is quite a good answer, but it's not 100% because he was not able to give a kind of solution to how to move forward. He said the formula which makes caste so deeply anchored is karma plus dharma. 2 words, it's like E is equal to MC squared. Karma plus dharma equals jati and varna. What did he mean? Karma is the cosmic law. Everything you do has effects. Whether you're a lizard or a snake or a Brahmin or a Dalit, everything you do has its effects, and the effects continue life after life. So there is an iron law that your self or so-called Atma is going through a huge cycle, over many lives. And the marks of action in one life lead to what happens in the next. That is the karma part of the equation. Plus D for dharma. If you are a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a this one or a that one, your only path to getting out of this is doing what you're supposed to do in that capacity. Do not rock the boat. If you want to get out of the big machine, do your job in the small machine. Somehow, this formula, karma plus dharma, is the way to live. It is the way of the world, not only a choice. It is the law of the cosmos. You must observe it. The minute you buy into this, caste is guaranteed to go on forever. Because who is going to rock the boat? Who is confident that they have some other salvation? And the beauty of the caste system, and all my anthropological colleagues in this room and in this gathering and in this days know this. I think our senior colleague has studied Chenchus. He must know this very well. That the beauty of caste is it's always about details. It is not an abstract message, equality, fraternity, brotherhood, spirituality. It is, do not eat this food at 3 o'clock. if a cobbler is sitting and watching you? It is thousands of rules like this, tailor-made. So a little bit like the Vice Chancellor was saying for digital era, where on Facebook you will get an immediate advertisement for a tour to Tirupati when you said you wanted to go to Guntur, but they are bringing you nearby. Caste system did not need digitality for this. Everybody knew in each circumstance what was the personal app. They each had an app. The app was called Caste. And it could tell you that if it is midnight and if your wife is not at home and somebody else cooked your food, then if you drink some water and walk around the house 4 times, then you can eat it. That's the rule. Now you say, what is the principle? What is the law? No answer. It is an encyclopedia of detailed rules. And there are rules for every jati, for everybody who might enter a jati, for everybody who wants to leave the jati. And Hinduism is famous for saying, oh, if you want to leave the jati, we will call your jati the jati of people who want to leave jati. So you also have a jati. And the translation is, why is it binding? Marriage. Marriage. Vivaha. If you don't subscribe, nobody will marry you. And the truth is, today, in 21st century, in Vizag or Voltaire or Bangalore or anywhere, if you completely step out, let me assure you that finding a bride, and if you're a male, plus a scooter and a house, along with the marriage, is very hard if you say you have nothing to do with caste. So it's fine to say caste, no bar and all, but I assure you that makes the challenge very, very hard, which is why most people go with the flow. Okay, they say to mommy and daddy, okay, I would prefer this and that, but yes, you go find a boy or you find a girl, marriage happens. And what does that mean? That small order, for which we use the word endogamy in the South, that means you must marry only within this circle, small circle. That continues. And in my community, for example, upper caste Tamilians, otherwise known as Parpans or Brahmins, that circle has expanded globally, but still it's only us. So find an iyer in San Francisco, even better, in Silicon Valley. Why get an iyer from Tanjore? Guy may be broke, he may be a clerk in the secretariat. No, go to, but please, don't go to Iyengars. Forget other non-Brahmins, rich people. No, please, Brahmins plus Silicon Valley or doctor, engineer. We know this. This is the business of everyday life in my community, and I guarantee you, it is 98% of the work being done by families in every jati. And this is the other aphorism that I want to offer you about why caste persists. Caste persists because, as you all know, there is so-called varna, which is abstract, Brahmin, Kshatriyas, and so on. But in fact, locally, it is jatis. Village can have 20 jatis, 15 jatis, 18 jatis, 27 jatis. And anthropology library is full of all the cases, 150 kinds, 2000 types, etc. But the reality is, when I was teaching caste as a scholar, I slowly realized there is one thing. There is a top always. You can find the top Brahmin and go and get something from him, ask something, puja, bow before him, scrape before him, something. But if you say, where is the bottom? Let me show you a mystery of physics. It's magic. There is no bottom. Why? Because every chap in the bottom has somebody in the next village who's below him. See, who is washing his clothes, cutting his hair. Show me one barber who cuts his own hair. Show me one dhobi who's cleaning his own wife's menstrual clothing. No, somebody is always there. And India is a big country. 500,000 villages. Everybody has another guy lower than him. So the mystery I tell my students in the US is how you have a system with a very rigid top, but very fluid bottom. See that the bottom is endlessly deferred to the next village, the next jati. Somebody is lower than you. If you're a Mala, you can always find a Madiga. If you are a Mahar, you can always find a Mang. There is no end. And these are only the known castes. There are thousands of unknowns, the snake charmers, the bangle makers, all the Banjaras, this one, that one. So the fact is, it's very tough to find the bottoms. I want to propose to you that it's very difficult to have a social revolution from the bottom where it's hard to find the bottom. The bottom is quicksand. It's not like an urban industrial class where you can say, okay, let's make unions, let's strike, let's do. This is everybody says, I'm not the bottom. What do you mean? Somebody is lower than me. That is very, very hard to organize around. So let me go to, again, my general point that this is a very difficult system to exit. And this idea of exit, I take from a very fine thinker called Albert Hirschman, who wrote a book called Loyalty, Exit, and Voice. And he said, whether it's political parties or toothpaste, you can have three positions. You are loyal, or even to university. See, Vice Chancellor spoke beautifully about Andhra University. You can be loyal. You can say, I love the university, it is perfect. You can exercise what Hirschman called voice. That is, you debate. You say, this is good, that's not good. Or you exit. You say, this thing is hopeless, nobody is listening to me, nothing will change, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to some other university. Or leave the university altogether. That is exit. So Hirschman's question was, in politics, what are the conditions under which people are loyal or express voice, argue, or exit. My proposal to you is that in India, for 2000 years now, it has not been easy to do anything except loyalty. You can argue a little bit, and of course, Bhakti movement has argued, Buddhists have argued, Sikhs have argued, Muslims have argued, and in the last 100 years, Dalits have become major arguers, saying this is terrible, change it. But exit is very difficult. You cannot say, please let me get off this airplane and find another airplane. There seems to be only one airplane in town. So even among Dalits, we know that the thing you can hope for is to rise in politics, is to rise in government. And that has been an extraordinary revolution even in my lifetime. Still, it is not exit. You have to accommodate every Dalit person that I know who is a bureaucrat, who is a politician, who is in university administration will tell me it is a hell of a job and you have to adjust all the time to a situation which is hostile. So we face a dilemma, and I want to turn now to your interest as a group in the anthropology of humankind and in applied anthropology, that is anthropology, which is also about solutions. And I would say this is an area which is well worthy of anthropological interest, because we have produced 10 to 50,000 books, monographs, and articles, maybe more, on how caste works. What are the varieties in the South, in the North, exogamy versus endogamy, Dravidian system, marriage system, dowry system. Nobody has contributed more than us to understanding what is this beast. But if you say, what have we contributed, or has anybody contributed to how to get out of it, that library becomes very small. So I am giving this talk today as a critique of myself also. You see, I have been writing about caste since I was, 30. In 1974, I published a justly obscure article on what is called right and left-hand castes in South India. Idangai, Valangai. That is a subject that even people who study Maharashtra have never heard about. And let me tell you, there are some great scholars of medieval South India on this topic. People like K. Sundaram on oil pressers of Andhra. These are crucial studies, all of which I looked at to try to understand what is this right-left business. It was there for 9 centuries, from Chola period to 19th century. Suddenly today it's gone. You don't find it except in very obscure places. It has disappeared. Right? It was a huge thing. It was happening everywhere. So I wrote some article about it. So from that time, I have been wrestling with what is this caste thing? Why is it growing? How does it multiply? What are the variations? And for many years, I tried a kind of exit of my own by saying, look, caste is not the only problem. Let us study this. Let us study agriculture, which I did do. Let us study temples, which I did do. But unfortunately, this 800-pound gorilla called caste is not going away. So I can exit and say, I will study this, I will study the moon, I will study nakshatras, but does the caste system care? No. So I come back also in the spirit of self-criticism to say any social scientist, and I don't care whether it is a lecturer in your university or in Bombay University or anywhere else, or whether it's the great Pandits and sages of our time, such as Amartya Sen, Ram Guha, this one, you know the names. If they do not have something to say on this subject, I would say they all need to rethink the agenda. I am trying to do that for myself late. I'm now 72, barely able to speak, as you can see, except under the stimulation of good colleagues like you. But I would say all of these people, since they have nothing to say on that subject, should all be somewhat quieter than they are. We don't need another book on Gandhi, another book on Kerala development, another book on this and that. I myself am contributing to that nonsense literature, but still I would say if you do not have an answer to why country of 1.3 billion is still under the thrall of a system which is 1500 years old and incredibly damaging to 98% of the population. If you don't have an answer, please, some other line of work would be better, maybe some web design. These are good things because they are not pretending. They are not saying we are going to give answers. They are just doing, Java, COBOL, Bali, whatever the language may be. I say, great, all power to you. Therefore, let me conclude because as I say, the clock is against us. I could speak also, bore you from morning to night, but I must not indulge myself. I will stop by saying I want to put this as one more opportunity and challenge before your organization and your community, and to wish you the very best and to thank you all again for giving me this chance to speak about a problem that everybody knows. It is not an unfamiliar problem. So I am done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Arjun Appadurai, sir. You have brought the important challenge that India has been facing for centuries. And this is the challenge that we have kept before us. And as we anthropologists are able to listen, sir?
I can hear.
So, thank you for this challenging task. We are here as an Anthropological Association for Humankind. And more than 1 billion people are suffering from the presence of the caste system because of the baggage that it brings and to divide people and to destroy the relations and the caste-based affinities and ties are not healthy for bringing the unity among and the integrity in Indian society. Because India has produced many noble laureate and also great inventions we could offer to the world, but we are also offering the caste to the world. That is the problem. So thank you for bringing this dangerous problem that humanity in India is suffering with. So we will undertake this research, how to break this dangerous bondage that has gripped the humanity in India, and we will bring this platform is already created for deliverance, for liberation, for unity, and for integrity, for nation building. For nation building, caste is the dangerous problem. So to bring the virtues, not only making the people smart, we want to build, we want to make people good. So to make good, we need unity and understanding and the virtue of tolerance towards the legitimate differences among the different communities. So to bring that facilitation and to bring that universal value system into operation in the soil of India, and it needs a lot of vigorous thought leadership like you, sir. Thank you for keep bringing this challenge to the table and presenting it to us. And we are, I hope this new generation, as our Vice Chancellor has really presented, this 21st century is bringing new challenges. Whatever the new challenges it is bringing, it is in the experience in the contemporary world. So we cannot escape the contemporary world. We cannot escape the past and the present and the presence of caste. But we can escape. You have brought also the exit option, building the voice and building the exit option from this national problem of caste. So on that front, we want to really develop some applications based on the anthropological and the seminal works that are already done in our field of anthropology, and we are open for other disciplines to come and join, because anthropology, by virtue, it brings interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary and a holistic picture. So we are going to work with our friends from sociology, political science, and economics, integrating all these things. We have some disciplines and bringing all that knowledge to the front and developing applications and offering the wisdom. So Anthropological Association for Humankind is the product that it wants to service all the education institutions and universities to the centers of creating wisdom. Till now, I believe that everybody can agree with me. These education institutions are the knowledge creating and the disseminating centers. But we need centers, education institutions should move further and ahead to create the wisdom centers. Wisdom is the thing that solves the human problems. So that shift we want to facilitate, and through this understanding the human body and the mind and the human energy and the human potential. For example, every human born with the same potential, a huge potential. How this huge potential is unpacked and how
I have a question for Arjun. Can I ask the question?
How this acquisition theory of the competencies are really facilitated by the existing institutions and the different disciplines that we want to examine, and we want to really facilitate what are the competencies that require to overcome and to exercise the voice and exit options from this existing unwanted phenomena called caste and the related ideologies that separate humans and that segregate humans, that create social disparities, unwanted social evils. In the name of caste, many crimes and many things are registered in the history of India, and we are going to register new experiences for future generations and present generations in the name of bringing applications, anthropological applications. So anthropological applications is the platform where we want to really promote research, how to solve this problem. Already there are many exemplary Indians who overcame the caste-based ties and affinities, and their vision is broadened. Their horizons are wide open, and they try to understand the humans in their own dignity and autonomy and freedom and respect, and also make them responsible. So those humans we want to organize together and emerge as a capital, not only social capital, not only intellectual capital, not only moral capital, not only structural capital, and we want to bring, as you rightly mentioned in one book, a culture and the public action. So the aspirational capital, aspirations which create a future for the country. So now the generations, the young generations, they have a huge aspirations. How their aspirations are translated into reality, how their dreams and visions and plans and goals and calculations and estimations and expectations are translated into real experience. That is where we are going to till the ground, sir, and that is where we want to ask people to join with us. And we need your wisdom, sir. We need your guidance. Thank you for being with us and bringing the greatest challenge that India is facing through these centuries. And we are not going to tolerate this, and we are not going to allow this system to continue, because it is the Constitution says the disparities and the social evils, whatever the system that promotes and sustains and justifies the social evils and social disparities, are unjudicial, not supported by judiciary, not supported by the Constitution of India. So the Constitution, the father of the Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and many the intellectuals that supported him in drafting the Constitution and offering the vision to this biggest nation on this planet. So the Constitution brings a broader and a safer vision for peaceful social coexistence, irrespective of the diversity, irrespective of the diversity of the beliefs or languages or experiences or expectations. It brings the unity, and that vision, and also much more, we want to facilitate a kind of dialogue. How we can acquire the moral competence that empowered us to translate the positive aspirations into reality. So aspirations, sometimes the negative aspirations will be damaging the mind and body and society and relations. Drastic experiences might come into existence. But positive aspirations, attitudinal capital, positive attitudes, and positive aspirations, positive difference. How to facilitate. That's where anthropological applications, that's where anthropological insights and understandings and skills and methods and theories that we want to apply, sir. That we need our constant mentorship, and we look to you, sir, for further guidance. Thank you so much. We are very much honored. This is a humble beginning, sir. This is a humble beginning, but you blessed with a huge blessings from your thing. You have presented us a biggest problem. You have presented us biggest problem and asking us think about solving it. And we are here as a platform, and please join this platform, sir. Anthropological Association for Humankind, and you will be our advisor, sir. But please be our on the advisory board. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not sure whether I am now free to leave, or what is
Sir, you want to speak, say something, sir?
No, I was just asking whether there are any questions from anybody else in the audience, any comments, because if not, then I will proceed. But if there are questions, I welcome them.
I have a question, sir. I am Dr. Gandikota Ananda. You refer that to census. I only did my PhD on census. And
yes, I did mention that.
You are talking about the caste, jati, that is jati.
Correct.
See, as long as in India, democracy, caste cannot be, the casteism cannot be removed. It will continue till the death. No anthropology or any of these things cannot resolve until and if people on the move, people will come on the self-respect, self-realization, then only caste can be removed. That is my first point. Another, that caste only money. There is no caste bar. In money, there is no caste bar. Remaining all the places, all in India, the casteism will be there, it cannot be removed. You please give your any suggestions, sir.
I don't know whether you can hear me.
Sir, you want to respond to Dr. Ananda's comment, sir?
Maybe I can take one or two more observations before I speak. I think Joe Christopher wants to ask something. Joe.
Hi, Prof. Appadurai, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining and doing this for us. It's not every day we get a chance to listen to you. Having said that, my question to you is, now in India we see a lot of people entering into universities at all levels, which definitely until about say 20 years ago was more elite. In some ways, this actually brings on a transformation of a sort for which probably we are not very ready. So how do you think when structures are opened up, not just by the constitutional law, but also by force from the street, or how do you think there could be a path where there is inclusivity, this transformation, at the same time people who are entering get what is supposed to get?
Well, thank you very much, Joe. I think that's a very important question, and it allows me to slightly correct what might look or might have sounded like a very pessimistic account that there is no exit at all. All I meant to say was this is a very deep problem which should not be avoided. And in India today, the caste problem in a way has been overshadowed and siphoned off by Hindutva problem. So in a way, everybody has been distracted into thinking that's the issue, Hindu, not Hindu, this, that. So we can have hundreds of answers to that, but this other thing is going on meanwhile anyway. But you are right. You are right that places like universities are indeed seeing change. Also workplaces, new kinds of occupations, new opportunities for women. These are all certainly changing the conditions under which especially young Indians are seeking ways to make their own futures. So it is not a hopeless situation, but they also need assistance. You know, it's very hard. It's easy to become atomized, to say, okay, you marry who you like, but don't come and talk to us. See, there has to be support. There has to be some kind of platform. And I think that is what we need to find both in our own studies as well as in political movements. We need to find to give a platform for individuals who are finding a new path. I will say, though, I am a little depressed by the research findings of very distinguished scholars like Professor P. Thirumal in Hyderabad, which is talking about IIT's untouchability, saying, look, really, it's a very invidious way in which Dalit students, faculty, etc., are made to feel like they are actually polluting the atmosphere of these higher institutes, even if there are more of them there. So I worry about this. I don't have a decisive answer myself, but I don't want to be too quick to say, well, universities are getting more people. It's just like saying politics has more Dalits in it, so it's great. Well, yes and no, because the question is which Dalits, who are they speaking for? We don't know. And of course, with the upper caste, we know, as the other gentleman said, money, the race between money and jati is always neck and neck. That is always true, and it's always been true in India. Money is the great lubricator. It is always offering adjustment, as we say in the Indian Railways, please adjust. Indians are adjusting always. And when the ghee and the money come together, the lubrication is very high. Nevertheless, the ladder remains. So some people are slipping on the ghee and falling. Some people are slipping on the ghee and rising, but the ladder is there. So, Joe, to you, my answer is, I, like you, do what I do because I have faith. I have faith in anthropology. I have faith in university. I have faith in education. I have just served on a big commission for UNESCO, which has produced a 150-page report. I will send the report to you all. It just come out, on the futures of education, global. What should we do in education? And I am invested in that. So I certainly don't mean to sound cynical or hopeless, or on the contrary, I feel that I often, people say to me, you point out all these terrible things in the world. How can you be hopeful? Well, I say that when people are living with one toilet for 800 people in the slums of Bombay and they are hopeful, what right do I have to be hopeless? So that is my answer. So I'm with you on the side of hope. But on that note, if my colleagues on the dais will permit me, I'm going to have to give my namaskarams and my thanks and say goodbye, if I may. Once again, many, many thanks. As we say, after a heavy meal in Andhra, we say bounty. So, thank you very much. And I will start the dialogue with you in the future. But for today, I have to fulfill some domestic responsibilities.
Sir, 1 minute, sir. 1 minute. 1 minute, Mr. Arjun Appadurai.
Oh, yes.
Is there any question from students?
Certainly.
Oh, Raj Katula is asking one question. Raj, are you ready to ask a question?
Sir, I'm Raghu. Can I go?
Yes.
Thank you for this opportunity. Professor Arjun Appadurai, it is pleasure to meet you and ask to listen to your views on caste, and that is so nice of listening to you. And my question to you is, do you still see that caste is as oppressive or as stagnant as it was to be in previous times? Because now in certain points of time, caste has become a major source of deprivation and a major source of power through which people try to alter their positions in the caste system, the lower to upper maybe. So how do you see, is it not, do you see it as a changing phenomenon, or if caste has to be abolished, then what would be your suggestion on the future way? Can we live without the caste? Not the case of oppression, but the other points that people are trying to seek power through caste. So what are your views?
I hear you, Raghu. Thank you very much. And I'm glad that as a student, you spoke up and raised what is actually a very big question. And instead of giving a long and evasive and jargony answer, I'll put it very simply. I would say that the game is constantly changing. That is the tactics, the skills, etc., like a hockey game. Stadium is unchanged. Playing field, the goals, the goalposts, referees, whistles, everything is the same. People are playing differently. So actually, it may be that the guy who's near the goalie, the fullback, is coming to the midfield now. Midfield is fallen back like OBCs. Somebody is going in the front, center forward. But the game is still more or less soccer or hockey or cricket, whatever it is. We need to change the game. That is, we need to change the stadium, the audience, the rules. Then we can declare that there's been some victory. But until then, it's only a question who gets to make a goal, who is going in Chak De India, who's going in the front, who is coming to the back. That India has always been, we anthropologists have always said, India caste system has never been static. People are always climbing up and pushing others down. That is a well-known game. That is going on throughout Indian history. Brahmins become generals, they go to the army. Generals become sadhus, sadhus become Brahmins again. Only Dalits are fixed, of course, but that is a problem which is deep. They are not allowed that much mobility in Indian history, but others are moving freely here and there. But they love the game, the rules. They like the structure because inside that they have a chance. Our commitment has to be changing the game. So that's my thought. And on that note, I must now say thank you and goodbye. And I'm sure you'll be glad that finally I'm not boring you anymore. So I thank you very much. All the very best. Bye.
Sir, before you leave, I want to make a comment, sir. Thank you, sir. One simple comment. The solution for this perennial problem is to inculcate the character education, the value education, which can really break the bondage of the negative rules, the systemic rules,
that justify the evils in the society in the name of caste. So the only alternative solution to break this bondage of caste, the evil system justified by caste system, is to inculcate the universal values and the virtue education, the character competencies. That's what I want to make a comment. Thank you, sir.
I certainly agree, and I will only add that we must make sure that our universities do not become like our mathas and other places where the mathadipatis are doing their own thing. That is education and character change. That has also been tried in India, and then it becomes some other racket. So we have to be careful, but I agree. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Yeah, friends, we joined together in saying thank you to Professor Arjun. I never anticipated that he would talk on caste because he has published and then researched on very deeply on different areas. To be honest, I expected that he would talk on theory of globalization, which has been working on, and I also wished that he would talk much about this speciality. But I don't know, like because the theme, probably he must have like encouraged himself that we are talking about contemporary thing, but he has gone to the structural kind of an exclusion which is there in Indian society. And of course, as honest he is, it is a very intricate issue to discuss, and the possibility of annihilation also is very, very complex. And one particular thing that we will move, as many people have talked about, is caste is encultured, and if you can tackle that enculturation in every particular household, because it makes even the victims willful and wanton vassals. So therefore, that's one of the areas. But it's as I told you, it also promotes, it uses culture as a catalyst. So there are quite intricate areas. This is a very serious thing and all. But what I appreciate with, I think so we all will join in appreciating Dr. Arjun Appadurai is that he broke that, say, the caste blindness in bringing up those discussions. Probably, I feel that he must have seen the racial blindness among the American, say, universities and also in the public. But in India, we do have the caste blindness. People, they know the problem, but they don't talk about it. Probably tomorrow I have a paper. Policies, in fact, now they know the problem, but they don't purposefully talk about that. So at least I'm happy personally that he has brought out, it's like hitting the bull straight into the eye, actually. So friends, yeah, that has been kind of like probably sometimes we get swayed away by certain things and all. So I feel that our Vice Chancellor played a mischievous game in driving Dr. Arjun Appadurai into an area where he in fact got into the trap. But fine, there are really good issues. Professor Prasad in fact has brought in certain issues which are very, very highly contemporaneous. We are into a cyber world, and doing anthropological research into cyber world itself is a different kind of an ethnographic method, where when you meet people directly, we talk to them, they talk about their own needs and all. But if you get into net, if you get into internet, if you get into, in fact, the cyber space, the individuals are different. Probably many of the individuals, in fact, no, they do not give you or project you their actual lives. Their beings are different. So therefore, he definitely, like in a sense, pointed out to that important area, because that is one of the contemporary issues. Because the personality is different as projected. The personality that is lived is different. So we need to grapple with that kind of a differential personality projection. That is one of the important areas of anthropology as well. So we must thank the keynote speaker and also the chief guest address. And